since I was a kid in Sunday school, I had my feelings and love for the kind, compassionate Jesus. But for some reason, I still had my fears for the Old Testament God of the Hebrews. I love the stories of Jesus, but I was always afraid of the God of wrath. No matter how many times someone tried to reinterpret it for me, I still couldn't get past fear. In my mind, the good father that Jesus was talking about had to be somebody else. Who knows how we evolved from fear to love, but I've always wondered. So at times over the years, these kinds of thoughts made me doubt the entire book. After I personally read the first few books of the Bible, I came away thinking any believer that had any moral conscience had to flinch at some of the commandments from the God of Israel that we all read about. My fear of the Lord really was a fear of the Lord. My initial question is, and has always been, is there more than one God in the Bible? Is it possible that many gods are woven together in the Bible stories? Sure needed to be true. Time went on. So, on one of my recent armchair studies, when I was learning about the Phoenician culture, I came across a name I knew as the biblical character Melchizedek. My research into Melchizedek was never intended to be about who he was, or I guess I should say who he is, he being immortal and all, as per the Bible. But to me, what caught my attention was who he represented. Melchizedek identified himself as the priest of the God Most High. He was called El Elyon, which translates to El as God, Elyon as Most High. Well, of course, this was my jumping in place for this revealing rabbit trail. So, Melchizedek enters the scene in Genesis chapter 14, right after Abraham rescues Lot from 4 kings who took him hostage when they looted the city of Sodom. When Abraham defeats the 4 kings and returns home with Lot, the king of Sodom, and Melchizedek, the king of Salem, or we think Jerusalem, meets Abraham. The Bible goes on to explain that Melchizedek was the priest to the God Most High. At this point, you're probably wondering why it even matters who this seemingly obscure character is. Well, here's why. Psalms 110:4 says that the priesthood of the Messiah is a priesthood according to the order of Melchizedek. All other Israelite priests were from the tribe of Levi, from the order of Aaron. Jesus is a priest not descended from the Israelite tribes of Levites, but a priest of the order of the mysterious figure Melchizedek, who was the priest of the God Most High. The writer of Hebrews cites Melchizedek's unique priesthood as type superior to the old Levitical order. Hebrews 5:10 explains that the Messiah is a priest according to a different order, the order of Melchizedek. And Hebrews 7:11-20 goes even further, saying that perfection could not be attained from the Levitical priesthood, which was a part of the law. So, a new priesthood was required. It says that the Levitical priesthood was temporary, but the Messiah's priesthood is in the order of Melchizedek, which is permanent. Obviously, this information is smack in the face of Old Testament law and is nothing short of heretical to that of a Pharisee's mindset. However, by the time of Jesus, religious leaders had turned the laws into a confusing mass of rules. When Jesus talked about a new way to understand the law, he was actually trying to bring people back to their own original purpose. Jesus did not speak against the law itself, but against the abuses and excesses that they had been subjected to. The author of the book of Hebrews reminds his audience that Jesus is superior. He explains that the new covenant is superior to the old covenant. The superiority of the new covenant rests partly on the priesthood of Jesus, who serves in the order of Melchizedek. The Melchizedekian order has set aside the Levitical priesthood and will bring perfection to God's people. We're reminded that Jesus was from the tribe of Judah, and we are told that the law does not give the priesthood office to that tribe, yet by law belongs to the tribe of Levi. Since Jesus is high priest but is not from the tribe of Levi, clearly the law has changed. The New Testament perspective of the God Most High appears 9 times. The most memorable instance is when the angel Gabriel appears to Mary, who was to give birth to Jesus. When Mary questioned the possibility of her conceiving a baby while being a virgin, Gabriel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you." Also in Matthew's account of the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus terms his genuine disciples as the children of the Most High. And later when Jesus was about to deliver a demon-possessed man, the chief demon cried out in a loud voice, acknowledging Jesus as the Son of the Most High God. And later the Apostle Paul was about to cast a demon out of a slave girl with a spirit of divination. The demon acknowledged Paul and Silas as the servants of the Most High God. Both Jesus and demons recognize the true God as the Most High. In Luke 1:32 we read, "Jesus shall be called the Son of the Highest." Hebrews 7:12, Jesus Christ is our high priest of the majestic priesthood. In Daniel 7, the prophecy, we read, "The 4 great beasts are 4 kings that will rise from the earth, but the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess it forever, yes, forever and ever." As the Watch This Horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in the favor of the holy people of the Most High. And the time came when they possessed the kingdom. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will be everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. This is the end of the matter. I, Daniel, was deeply troubled by my thoughts, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself. Well, but not me. I can't keep this stuff to myself, so let's keep going. The Bible contains the word Elohim, which is the plural form of God, more than one. Here's an innocent-sounding verse from Deuteronomy 32, from the King James Version, published in 1611. "When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob is the lot of his inheritance." Some scholars who have used the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint to reconstruct the authentic version of this verse said the children of Israel was stuck in as a replacement for the sons of El or sons of God. Now, with that lost phrase restored, a verse that was cryptic suddenly makes sense. El Elyon, the God Most High, divided the world's people into ethnic groups and gave one group to each of his sons. He gave Israel to Yahweh as his inheritance. El had 70 sons. The Tower of Babel story and the Table of Nations correspond to these passages. According to the ancient Ugaritic text and the language of the ancient Ugaritic, which is in modern-day Syria, clay tablets discovered and discipled in the late 1920s and early 30s provided an unparalleled glimpse into the life and religious worldviews of the ancient Israelites. Clearer records have been found saying that the old text contained many superhuman beings called Elohim, who took interest in or took charge of the affairs of individuals or nations. The chief of these Elohim, according to the text, was El Elyon. Back to my inner thoughts. For years, I had thought the good Father Jesus just can't be the same deity we read about in the Old Testament. And all this information was starting to paint a new picture. In the search, I found that recent archaeological, biblical, and extra-biblical research has led scholars to state that the original god of the land of Israel was in fact the Canaanite deity El Elyon. I found that El Elyon ruled the Canaanite pantheon of gods and goddesses with wisdom and compassion. He didn't use force nor fear like the war gods did. The Canaanites always turned to El Elyon for forgiveness of their sins. I thought, this El Elyon sounds like a real father to me. In the ancient Canaanite religion, he was the father of the divine assembly. That same divine assembly is mentioned in Psalms 82. It reflects El presiding over the divine assembly of gods, and it shows the humanitarian aims of El and his instructions to the other gods. El stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Free them from the hand of the wicked. They do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are unstable, I said. You are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But you shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O Yahweh, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. Now, for some reason, this verse says that El, after judging the other sons, gave all the other nations to Yahweh. Boy, those other sons must have been extremely bad. However, if this did happen, this is where I think Yahweh became known as the God of this world. And somehow he took on the attributes of the Father, even though he was a wrathful, revengeful, uncompassionate, lesser God. Some of the attributes assigned to the God Most High by the Canaanites were the compassionate God of mercy, who was not easily moved to anger. Kindly one, he blesses us, he forgives us when we do things we shouldn't. If we said we're sorry, this is usually sufficient, and he accepts it as atonement. He moans for our pain and rejoices in our happiness. It was El's loving and non-judgmental characteristics mirrored in the Canaanite titles for him that really got my attention. El the compassionate one, El the kindly one, El the merciful one, and El the creator. All these characteristics really got my attention. Then I said to myself, this is the good Father, Jesus. This is who Jesus got his spiritual instructions from. No wonder Jesus said, your Father is not my Father. I'd never really found anything to back up my feelings about there being more than one God. Until now. The Hebrew Bible often refers to the competition between these two gods. A good example is I discovered the original creation story in Genesis refers to Elohim, the plural form of El, as well as the Lord God. Another example is the story of Noah found in Genesis. Chapter 6 through 9, the story switches between the two names for God in alternate paragraphs. Of course, in English, this is not immediately apparent, because in one paragraph we read about God and in the next paragraph about the Lord. But in Hebrew, the text clearly varies between Elohim, God, and Yahweh, the Lord. Chapter 6 of Genesis describes the specifications for the ark and the animals to be gathered as given by Elohim. And then in chapter 7, the story continues with a bit of repetition by Yahweh. However, unlike Elohim, he is not content with just 2 of every kind of animal and bird. He wants 7 pairs of each. Yahweh also discriminates between the clean animals and the unclean animals, requiring just 1 pair of the unclean animal. In the ancient history of the Israelites, Yahweh was initially viewed as a tribal war god, a deity of liberation and conquest. leading the Hebrew slaves out of captivity in Egypt and enabling them to conquer the land of Canaan. As the Israelite culture became more settled over time and a national deity was formed, Yahweh took on additional roles, envisioning as a lawgiver, ruler, and judge over the people. Eventually, Yahweh became more than a tribal national god. Yahweh took on the roles of the high god, superior to competing gods within the land of Israel and the gods of all the surrounding nations. However, El's fatherly, tolerant Canaanite characteristics are manifested in Jesus. And about 2,000 years ago, the Father sent a more compassionate Son to redeem us from the old covenant laws and barbaric ways. Believers who follow Jesus can see our reality is changing as the Spirit upgrades our beliefs in the new millennium. I no longer need to serve a warlike God. Jesus replaced him by ransom and saved us from the god of this world. This discovery is so freeing to me. I no longer have to try and interpret the wrathful God as all-loving.